And now on the line is Eunan McKinney from Alcohol Action Ireland. Eunan, welcome to the programme.
Thanks for having me on, Darren.
Okay, it was reported extensively on the news last week that the Public Health Alcohol Bill has passed through the Dáil. I haven't read of many news reports on the issue since then, Eunan. Could you tell me what is the latest news?
Well, the latest news is good news in so much that the Public Health Alcohol Bill is now officially known as the Public Health Alcohol Act 2018, because it is no longer a bill, because the President signed the bill, given his assent to it become law last Wednesday morning. So that's the 18th of October, I think it was. On the morning of that morning, he signed it, so we now have a bill which is no longer a bill, but it's an act. So all the measures in the act are now accordingly the law of the land.
This is fantastic news. Am I right in saying that there is still some work left to be done on the implementation of the public health?
Yeah.
Yeah,
there'll be significant. I mean, essentially what we'll be seeing is there'll be a phased introduction to a number of the aspects of the bill. So in the immediate sense, what people will see is not a huge amount, because the provisions around advertising and the content of advertising, they have a year to be brought in. The structured separation in the stores has a 2-year period to be brought in.
Mm-hmm.
And the labelling matters, for the much contentious labelling matters on the bottles, that has a 3-year run-in. So there'll be some of those significant changes will take some time to be evident to people. However, having said that, there is 6 sections within the bill that will start pretty quickly. I mean, the Minister has to sign an order, and then there's 21 days for it to feed in, but certain things like the prohibition of advertising in certain places, so that idea that you won't be able to advertise near schools or parks, and that I mean, pretty much straight away. Section 15, which is the section in relation to advertising around events, so that'll change. So we'll see things like alcohol advertising on pitches that'll no longer be allowed, and so a whole variety of those matters. So there's 6 sections: section 14, 15, 16, 17, 20, and 22. They'll be implemented pretty quickly. So we should start to see immediacy around those measures, probably, if not later this year, certainly immediately in the new year.
This is great news. And also, as part of the Act, there's going to be a review. I think it's in 3 years' time, looking at the whole issue of advertising and sponsorship again, with a view to possibly banning them completely. This is something I'd like to see happen. That's part of the Act as well, is it?
Yeah, in the Act there's a provision whereby the Minister must, after 3 years, review the many measures that have been implemented, and in that context, some of the measures that have been implemented around sponsorship, there are 1 or 2 relatively modest aspects around sponsorship that have been included in the bill, namely that alcohol companies can't sponsor children-centred events, and that they can't sponsor motor vehicle type of events. But so, anyways, in the context of all of the Act, there's a provision in the Act that the Minister must review it within 3 years. And it's in that context and in that spirit that the Minister certainly did indicate in one of the closing stages of this report. The report stages is back on the 3rd of October, that there was going to be some possible movement towards re-establishing a longer look at the sponsorship provisions, especially around alcohol sponsorship of sport and cultural events, which we would be in favour of doing.
And the media as well, I think that's very important to use.
The media in the context of the sponsorship?
Advertising, like television and all that kind of stuff like that.
Oh yeah, well they have been agreed, and they will be implemented pretty quickly. You know, they're part of those sections.
But they aren't actually banned, are they? They're just seriously curtailed, I think, is it?
Well, what the key provision for us in relation to the measures that have been put in place around advertising is that the whole nature of the advertising of alcohol in the future will radically change. Mm-hmm. So it'll no longer will advertising for alcohol be able to use the emotions and the joys of human emotion to promote alcohol. It'll be, the endeavour or the injection of human response and human emotion into advertising around alcohol will now be prohibited. Mm. So alcohol will only be able to advertise as simply informative. In other words, here's the product, here's what it tastes like, here's what its production is, but it'll be quite a restricted field or criteria in which they can advertise.
The advertising will be very interesting to see. Eunan, are you planning on staying on in Alcohol Action Ireland now that this heavy lifting has been done, or do you want to any other causes?
Well, I think that the immediacy of this will require some degree of a high degree of monitoring and, policing, for the want of a better word. We have to make sure that these provisions that are put in the bill, are in the Act, that are contained in the Act, will now be implemented in a coherent and cohesive fashion. So we're very keen that we'll be doing that, and Alcohol Action itself will be, refocusing itself onto other areas that have been neglected while this big battle has been going on. So, the whole area of treatment and the need for greater provision of treatment in our communities needs to be readdressed, and the funding gaps that are evident in that needs to be addressed. And then, secondly, we have a new initiative about to commence, which was focusing on alcoholic children and children of alcoholics and the whole trauma around that, and trying to bring that to people's attention as well. What I've spoken about to you in the past, I think, is the silent voices that are largely missing from this debate, and to try and give them a platform in the future as well.